King goes on a soul-searching journey that leads him to begin his training to become the strongest, just like Saitama. Along with that, we actually get some manga-exclusive content at the end of this chapter. It's actually a pretty big change from what happens in the webcomic right at the end here, and it leaves me very, very interested to see exactly how the manga is going to adapt the rest of the webcomic. We might be seeing some big changes here, but you know right away that this chapter is going to be a banger as soon as you see the cover page for this one. This is probably my favorite cover page in a while. I mean, come on, Saitama is benching 2 black holes and doesn't even seem phased. I'm sure you power scalers out there are going to go crazy with this in the comments, but let's get right into it. So the chapter picks up right from the end of the previous chapter, where King was completely fed up with being so weak and having people think that he was so much stronger than he really was, that he went to Bang's dojo in order to become strong. He wanted Bang to train him and teach him martial arts so he can actually fend for himself if his luck runs out one day. Problem is though that when King was pretty much just throwing it all on the table for Bang, telling him that his entire persona is a lie, the King engine was drowning out a bunch of that dialogue. So really all Bang heard King say was "make me strong," and that's where we pick up in this chapter, where Bang thinks about that statement for a moment, and he pretty much tells him that he created his technique, the water stream rock smashing fist, originally as a way for self-defense for the weak. It's a good technique for countering, but not using super big attacks or super powerful moves like what he thinks King is looking for. So he tells him that he'd be wasting his time learning at his dojo. And what's pretty cool is that when Bang starts explaining how he kind of had the same mentality as King when he was younger, constantly yearning for a new technique that can take out all his enemies in a single punch, we actually get a small panel of a middle-aged Bang here. Always loved seeing Bang when he was younger in the manga, and here it seems like he's in his like mid 40s or 50s because he has a little bit of gray in his hair, so that was pretty cool. But essentially he told King, "I can't help you here," but King's like, "That's not it, it's not that serious, it's not on that level." He says it's a really simple problem, that he wants to get stronger because he's actually really weak. He admits that he's not as strong as everybody says he is. Everything that people say about him is a lie. So Chiranko is like flabbergasted by this because he's a big time King fan apparently, and he starts listing off all of these like legends and myths about King, asking him if they're true, like when he apparently flew a bomb into the sky that could destroy the entire solar system, or how he literally went back in time to destroy a meteor to save the human race. Like just completely outlandish stuff. So he's like, all that stuff is lies? And King's like, yeah, but that's not the lies that he's referring to. Those are just completely outlandish lies. The lies that King's talking about are the lies about him being the strongest human alive and be strong enough to be an S-class hero to begin with. But Bang continues to misunderstand King because he thinks that King's calling himself weak because he feels like he can't live up to the expectations of these grand wacky myths that people like Chiranko believe. So in Bang's eyes, King is still super strong, but the pressure of being so strong is weighing heavily on him, and it seems like King just can't get through to him. And it actually turns out that Bang directed him towards his brother Bomb in order to teach him a fighting style that's more suited for what he wants, more of an offensive fighting style. And we actually see Bomb do this really cool sequence where he's sitting on top of these huge boulders that are all varying in size, and he uses his technique to slice through all of them and make like a perfect cylinder pillar. I thought it was pretty awesome, really awesome drawing by Murata as always. But he essentially tells King the same thing, like, I can't teach you anything, you'd be basically wasting your time here because you're so strong already. And before King can get a word in edgewise, Bomb points out that he's going to recommend him to a dojo that might be able to help him with what he needs. So then King goes on this like long montage going from dojo to dojo that keeps recommending him to a different place because they feel like they're not good enough to teach King something new or something more powerful. And it even gets to the point where other dojos start catching wind of King going to various places before they even get to them. So they do things like take down their signs and pretend like they're closed and try to avoid him as much as possible. And some places even think that King's being sent by the Hero Association to kind of intimidate them, pretty much making them fall in line into joining the Hero Association. And my guy King is just struggling here. He just can't believe how out of this world like the myth around King has become, to the point where no one will listen to him when he says that he's weak, like flat out telling them to their faces. So in the last dojo that he visits, he sees a guy named Master Mekatsuyo. And quick little side note, Mekatsuyo actually stands for really powerful, so I thought that was pretty funny. But King goes to see this guy and he tells him, I can't help you either, like everybody else has, but there's one last place that you can check. It's pretty much the final training grounds for martial arts masters. And King ends up going to this place. It's like this rundown shack, and he pretty much sees like this zombified corpse meditating in this empty room, and he completely freaks out. And he's like, I've seen something like this in anime, to stay and meditate about one's past and future until one finds the true answer, that type of training. But he's like, screw this, I'm getting out of here. And one little change we get here that kind of diverges from the webcomic is that as King is leaving this place to go home, home, he runs into Minako, and if you completely forgot who that was, that's totally fine, it's been a while. But Minako's that one-eyed monster that was following along with Saitama and Flashy Flash during the Monster Association arc. Unfortunately, we only get one panel of her here. Her and King pretty much just scare each other and they run away. So then we cut to King's place, and he's playing video games with Saitama and completely whooping his ass, of course. And King just looks down bad, to the point that he starts actually sobbing in front of Saitama. He just doesn't know what to do anymore. He's pretty much stuck being a fraud, and he's gonna end up just dying fighting a monster anyways, and he feels like there's no way out. Well, this is when Saitama turns to him and says probably the most useful words he's heard all day, the best advice he's gotten all day. Saitama simply says, "Work on your muscles." And this seems to stop King from crying, indicating that he's going to take his advice and start working out. Soon enough, we're going to be seeing King doing Saitama's exact training routine. All the push-ups, all the sit-ups, all the cold winters and hot summers. Look out everybody, King's about to remove his limiter. But moving on, Saitama gets a ring at the doorbell, and this is when we get another moment that switches completely from the webcomic. Because when he answers the door, it's actually Fubuki and the Fubuki group, and Fubuki's bringing him a box of this premium beef in order to entice him to join the Fubuki group again. But it seems a lot different than the first time when she first met Saitama. It seems like she's not trying to have a monopoly in the B class anymore. She's actually allowing her members and herself to move up to the A class if they can. So it definitely seems like Fubuki's turned a new leaf. She's grown in the time since we first met her in the manga, which I definitely appreciate. You know, some good character development here, pretty subtle. What's super weird though is that overgrown Rover pops up and takes the premium beef and starts eating it. And it really surprised me that Fubuki did not remember who Rover was. I mean, she points out that he looks familiar but doesn't know exactly where she's seen him before, which I thought was pretty crazy because I know Rover's way smaller than he was before, but he looks exactly the freaking same. And when you see what Rover does in a little bit, like, it still blows my mind exactly how she couldn't put two and two together, but whatever, that's manga, right? Well, he eats the premium beef. Saitama of course says no to joining the Fubuki group, and the Fubuki group leaves to go on a mission to hunt down a monster. Well, apparently overgrown Rover is following them even though they're going 100 kilometers per hour, and as they're trying to shake him, they get to the monster that they're looking for, and most of the Fubuki group starts getting defeated. It looks like a pretty tough plant monster or something. Well, this is when overgrown Rover uses his like mouth cannon, his energy beam or something, and completely obliterates the monster. And instead of questioning like what freaking dog in the world can do something like this, Fubuki just assumes that it's the premium beef that gave overgrown Rover all of this strength, and she's like, get this guy some more premium beef, which I think is pretty damn silly, but it's also pretty funny, so whatever. So now it turns out that the Fubuki group has a new member, a guard dog in particular, which I think is pretty interesting because I want to see where that goes. But that does it for this one, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this chapter. What do you think of the changes that have been made from the webcomic? Let me hear your thoughts below, but that does it for this video. Have an absolutely wonderful night, morning, evening, whatever, and I'll see you in the next video.